Hello, Wally family. I know what you're asking right now. Why did Sarah open a gift with just a QR code inside of it? And to that QR code led a video of Brandon shirtless, only wearing a Santa hat. That's a valid question to ask. The reason why that is occurring is because I have a problem. And I feel like we need to solve it today. So my problem is that I am struggling to read a file, specifically the Declaration of Independence, and see how many times a certain letter occurs. So as you can see, we've already created a Java class. Java is going to be the language we're going to be using today. And I went ahead and named it Frequency Finder. You can name it anything you want. Just the class is the same name as the file. And I already created a main method. The main method is going to be what runs whenever we run the file. Perfect. So firstly, we need to set a variable to the input file name. So we're going to have string file name. It's equal to, we already have an input file here, as you can see. It is apparently one line of the Declaration of Independence. So what we can do, and this is in VS Code, we can copy the path. Right? Alright. Cool. And then make sure whenever you're copying this path to change all these backslashes to forward slashes, just so you actually have the input file path. Perfect. And then nextly, we are going to need a character variable or a char for the letter that we're trying to find the frequency of. Letter in question. Let's just do letter for now. Is equal to, and we're just gonna not equal to anything, right? Let's see what our error is. About your character constant. We'll just make it S for now. You know what? For Sarah, how about that? Nextly, what we're going to do is we're going to split this off into a different method. So we're going to make it public, and it is going to return a string, and we're going to name it find the frequency. And I know what you're saying right now, Sarah. Oh my gosh, I can't stand the sound of that keyboard. Suck it up. You need to learn this sometime. Alright. So, let's not do any parameters for now. We'll fill those out as we need them. Perfect. So we do have an error. Let's see what it is. This method must return, so what we'll do before is we'll go ahead and just new line down, and then we'll go and return a string. Just empty for now, and we'll make sure to fill that in. The reason why we create a method here is just to make it easier to read. We could do this all in the main method, but it makes it a little easier to read. So, firstly, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to most likely read the file. So first we're going to need that file name. Alright. So what I just did right there is I inserted parameters. These parameters, there are variables passed in to this method that I'm able to use and pass in from other methods. And we'll get to that in a second once we finish this method. So we have the file name. Now the most complicated part of this project, according to Sarah, she did miss that day of class, is reading the file. Reading the file can be tricky. The most important thing is that a lot of times reading files can cause errors. So what we're going to put it inside is what we like to call a try-catch. Exception E. So an exception is whenever an error occurs, essentially. And what this try-catch is going to do is anything inside that try, if an exception occurs, it's going to go to the catch. It makes your programs more safer in a larger environment. So what we're going to do is we are going to create what we like to call a buffered reader. Alright, BR. And then we'll go and just set that equal to null. And null basically just means nothing. It's not too complicated. Alright. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set a counter variable equal to 0. Alright. So now we're actually going to move these outside of the try. That's typically my preference. I prefer to move those kind of variables outside of a try. Alright, so firstly, we need to set our buffered reader to something. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it to a new buffered reader. And what this new keyword does right here is it creates a new instance of an object. It's not too complicated right now. It's not too important. So we'll go and ignore that for now. What we need to do inside of this buffered reader is we need to create another object called file reader. Another set of parentheses because we're creating an object, and what we're going to put inside of that is the file name. Alright, so we do have some squigglies, it means we have an error. So let's see what it is. It can be reserved to a type. Firstly, nope, it's file reader, alright. There we go. We just had to import the class. Perfect. Alright. So then now that we have that, what we're going to do next is we actually need to read the file. So we're just going to do a while loop real quick. Alright. And then we created this variable line. Now we need to set it to something. I hope you are following along, by the way. That would be very helpful. Just so you can actually do the homework assignment, Sarah. Alright, so then first we're going to set a string line, the one we already created. We're going to set it to br.readLine. What this read line will do is it will read the line of the file that it is currently on. And then if I were to do read line again, it would just move down to the second line. If that next line were to be empty, or it wouldn't have anything on it, it would make line equal to null. With that being said, what we have here, as you can see with while, it's a loop. That means it is going to be running constantly until the condition inside of this parenthesis is not true. So what we have here is line does not equal to null. Essentially what this means is that if we keep doing read lines inside of this loop, whenever we're at the end of the file, it will go outside of this while loop. Thus, we've read all of the file. So perfect. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do another type of loop. This one is a little different. It is a for loop. And not too complicated. Let me type this out and then I'll go and explain it for you guys, especially you, Sarah. Alright. Alright, so this for loop, what we did here is there's 3 sections to a for loop. Firstly, you have your declaration. All this is you're just creating a variable that you're going to use as a counter. We typically use I. It stands for like iteration or iterating variable. Nextly, you're going to have the condition, which so this time we're going to be going I is less than the length of the word or sentence or string of line, which is the line of the file. Thirdly, you're going to have what you're going to do every time. So at the end of every time, you're going to increase I by 1. Perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an if statement now. It's another type of statement. Basically, let's go ahead and create the if statement. So line.char at I. Oh, whoopsies, whoopsie daisies. Alright, is equal to. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do equal to letter. Now, we do have a red squigglies again. It can't be resolved to a variable. I wonder why. I know why. It is because we need to pass it in as a parameter. So what we're going to do is we're going to have char letter. Boom. We got rid of our squigglies, our red squigglies. So then inside this if statement, this char at basically just means the character at a certain index, and that's why we go I. So we are looping over each individual letter in this sentence or in this file. And then we are checking to see if that letter is the same as the input letter. Simple as that. So what we're going to do inside this if statement is we're going to add to a certain counter to count the number of times for in this instance s occurs. That's why we created the counter variable a little bit ago. So in this syntax basically just means you add 1 to the variable. You can also do plus equals 1. You can also do equal to counter plus 1. All of them are the exact same. Typically, as a programmer, typically use this because it is the most concise, and also we already do it here. Perfect. So now we're only missing one thing. The one thing we are missing is to go to the next line of the file. Line is equal to br.readLine. As I said earlier, it basically just goes down to the next line and then has that equal to line. If we are not at the end of the file, once we hit this line right here, we are going to hit this end curly bracket. We're going to go back to the top. If we are at the end of the file, we're going to hit this curly bracket, check the condition, and then go past it. So what we need to do is we need to return the number of times that the letter occurs. So all we're going to do is we're going to do letter or return counter. As you can see, okay. So there are two ways we can do this. The reason why we're getting an error right now is because counter is an integer or a number variable, and we're passing back a string. Two ways we can do this. We can either make counter a string with .toString, simple as that, maybe. Or we can change the return type to integer. I personally want to keep it a string. It'll make it easier to work with later. So a little hack you can do is just concatenate that variable. Perfect. Inside of this catch statement, simple as that. All you need to do is you just need to print out the error. That's the trace. I believe that's what that is. I haven't coded in. No, I was completely wrong. We'll just do .toString. We'll stop being so fancy. ToString, and then we're just gonna boom. All right. Before we return, we need to close our buffered reader. It's basically it's more important in bigger applications. Perfect. So now this whole code block method is done. Perfect. What this method does is it finds the frequency, it reads in the file, counts the number of times a certain letter occurs, and then passes back the number of times that it occurs. Easy as that. So what we are going to do is we're going to call that method, easy as that, and then we're going to pass in the variables that file needs, or that method needs. Boom. We are going to get an error here, I believe. Maybe. Can I make a static reference to a non-static field? All we're going to do is we're just going to make that a static right there. Easy as that. All right. So now, since this passes back a string variable, what we're going to need to do is we're going to set it to an object, or set it to a variable. So we're going to have a string. Let's call it num of times, because I don't know how to spell occurrences. Num of times. Let's just put number of times. Now all we're going to do is we're just going to print out the number of times that it occurred. Alright, so the number of times that the letter, we're gonna make it a little fancy, right? plus, and then number of times. Perfect. Let me know you're asking. Are we done? This seems right. One more thing. We need to make the letter, we need to make it dynamic. That's what it is. Uh-oh. Let me see that. Uh-oh. Antivirus. That's ruining my recording. Alright. So, what we're going to do, system, out.println, all it's going to say is, what letter would you like to see the number of, Lord, occurrences with? Alright. So then what we're going to do is we're going to create another variable. So string input is equal to scanner dot read line. I think that's right. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, well, I know it does. I know what our problem is. We need to create a scanner variable, scanner object, keyboard is equal to new scanner. And then now here we do keyboard. Maybe. Next line, there it is. Sometimes you don't remember all the syntax, so you gotta kind of find some, right? Alright. Let's fix our spacing here. And then what we're gonna do is let's test our file, right? So firstly, all we're gonna do is we're gonna go here, and then it's gonna try to access the firewall, special allow access. And you can see on the bottom here where my cursor is, what letter would you like to see the number of occurrences with? Let's do the letter B, because it's pretty cool like that. Boom. Number of occurrences of S is nothing. Okay, so what happened? Let's see. So the problem is that the file path is incorrect. Well, let's see. What we should be able to do, instead of doing this big old fancy one, since they're in the same folder, we might be able just to do that. So let's try to run it again. Obviously, what letter would you like to see the number of occurrences with? B. Let's do GA for Johnny. Johnny, if you're watching, I'm glad you're there. Alright, so the number of times the letter... Oh, we made a boo-boo. We made a boo-boo. Okay. This needs to be input. Alright. So, what letter would see the number of occurrences with? Let's do K for Kevin. Kevin Swartwood. Okay, that is not correct somehow. Okay. Okay, yep. So this also has to be input. Change that to string. No, let's do this. Char. Oh gosh, this is getting more complicated than I want it to. Letters equal to input. Char dot parse char. Oh boy. Perfect. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to look. Oh, we're gonna look it up. So convert a string to a char. Nope. Pretty easy. Apparently Sara wasn't able to do this, so okay. Simple as that. Alright. So what we're gonna do is erase all this. Dot char at 0. Okay, letters. So let's put this back to letter. Alright, perfect. So now this should work. Let's see, who are we missing? In or Nathaniel. I don't know, you love being called Nathaniel. Nathaniel, be thankful your letter was the one that was working properly first. Except we're missing one thing. What if I were to... What letter would you like to see the number of occurrence with? Oh my gosh. Brandon is so cool. I think that he gives the best gifts ever. Do you see that Christmas hat? It sure is cool. Okay, so something... Okay, so as you can see, what happened was, one, we did fix something where it doesn't take in the whole sentence, it just takes the first letter. We don't necessarily want that, I don't think. So we need to tell them, if they insert more than one letter, hey, you're bad at this, right? You're bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that while loop again. While input that length, just saying the length of the string again, is greater than 1. I believe this needs to have this. So then basically we're just going to copy and paste this, right? Since we already created the input variable, we don't need to make the class again. Switch my hat over to the switch my hat over to the other side. How about that? Whoop, whoop. Yeah, it looks better on that side. All right. All right. So then try that again, bozo. Perfect. Okay, so now if we were to run it, what letter would you like to try the number of occurrences with? Joe, Billy, Bob. Now we get a try again, bozo. Let's try it. Let's try to do Joe, Billy, Bob again. See what I did there? Try that again, bozo. Okay, well, let's do C for Chad and Cheryl. Boom. The number of times that C occurs in the Declaration of Independence is 168 times. Wow. So, I believe that's all we have to do. And Dr. Hightower would be very proud of you, Sara, now that you know how to find the number of times a certain letter occurs in the Declaration of Independence. And I'm so glad I could show you. And real quick before we head out. Uh-oh. Let's do this real quick. I don't have much room, but uh-oh. Uh-oh. Thank you guys for watching.